I will call the public hearing to order, and we have a public hearing on a zoning ordinance change, which is on our agenda tonight, to allow NAICS code 447110 and 447190 to operate in neighborhood commercial. And I don't believe we had a sign-up sheet, so what we'll do is just let people speak who want to. The only thing we ask is you give us your name and address for the record, and then also remember there's probably plenty of people who want to speak. Try to keep it in the 3-minute range if you can. And then also, I know there's probably some passion that has to do with this issue, and just keep it cordial, and just try to remember that we're all neighbors here too. So, would anyone like to address council on the public hearing of the codes we have today? Okay, I'll see you second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of Council, George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. As this council knows, I've been opposed to this amendment since it was first proposed, and my initial concerns and objections was that it would enable the Burger King location to start selling gas. And at a previous meeting, and more than one previous meeting, I've expressed my specific concerns as to that issue. But as I've researched this matter further, my concerns now eclipse and transcend that tremendously. Since the last meeting, I've gone to the NAICS website and obtained the NAICS definitions for 447110 and 447190. And as I read them, I get greatly concerned. Under NAICS codes, it allows both of these coded facilities or coded businesses to engage in automotive repair, which means that any businessman or woman could purchase any property in town right now that's designated and zoned neighborhood commercial and begin selling gasoline there and commence auto repairs, which might include muffler replacement, tire repairs, and many of these properties are immediately adjacent to residential properties, so that pity the poor resident who lives right next door to that location. He or she may have to listen to impact wrenches all day and night, from tire changes, muffler replacements, what have you, all the noise that goes along with automotive repair. And the code allows that in both locations. Some of these locations that come to mind are the ones right up on Broad River Road between Royal Tower and the Bilo. There's a whole stretch of commercial, neighborhood commercial property there that abuts residences in Old Friarsgate. Another one that comes to mind is the dentist office at the entrance to New Friarsgate right across the railroad tracks. Nothing would, if you guys enacted this amendment, nothing would prevent me from buying that property and then immediately start selling gas there and engage in automotive repair morning, noon, and night. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that you know not what you do. And if you do indeed know what you're doing, you're making a very bad decision for the residents of this town, and I urge you not to pass this amendment. Thank you.
Myrna Gagline, 112 Landishire Court. I would like the council to tell me why they feel it necessary for this change.
Well, at this moment, we listen to y'all, and that's mainly what we do. During the section we have on our agenda during the discussion, hopefully that will come out, and they can answer at that time. But right now, we just kind of let people talk or whatever, but we don't really get into it.
We are against it in our neighborhood mainly because of neighborhood commercial is a buffer zone for the residential areas. We do not need general commercial next to subdivisions.
We're not changing it to general commercial.
Pardon?
We're not changing it to general commercial.
We can discuss it.
Well, she's just misled. I mean, I want to make sure she's clear what she's saying.
That's fine.
We're not changing the zoning to general commercial. It's neighborhood commercial.
We're not going to get into a debate up here. We're going to let citizens speak, and we can listen. We can discuss it during their time. We can bring it up. Yeah.
It's too fast. I couldn't get it.
Land,
Okay, got it.
My name is David Humphreys. I live at 143 Rushing Wind Drive in the old Friars Gate section, approximately a block and a half from the property in question. I've lived there for the last almost 34 years. And I'm here to ask also that you make no changes to the zoning. Most of you on town council have been on council or in office for a number of years, and even anyone new has been here before, and they know this situation. A number of you, when you were campaigning for office, attended meetings at residences of the voters, and promises were made then to uphold what they believed in, which was keeping the zoning the same. What disturbs me is that this issue keeps coming up, and it indicates to me that just one guy, although he does own a business in Irmo, I don't even think he lives in Irmo, but one guy can have more influence over town council than all of the voters who put all of you folks in office. And what I would ask you to do is to honor your commitments and to vote to keep this the same. Thank you. 143 Rushing Wind.
Okay, thank you.
While they're coming, it'll be fine.
Mayor King, first of all, I'm Elmer Danko. I live at 500 Finsbury Road. Mayor King and members of Irmo Town Council, I am opposed to the proposed amendment to the Town of Irmo Ordinance, Article 2, Section 2-2, use of tables in Table 1 to permit business within a ICS Code 447110 and the 447190 to operate in neighborhood commercial, general commercial, or light manufacturing areas. If Town Council passes this ordinance amendment change, you know that you are opening up the Town of Irmo total zoning ordinance for practically any kind of business to locate anywhere within the town limits, especially where businesses can locate right next door to the residential neighborhoods. The reason for the request to amend the ordinance is to allow for a gasoline station that would border a residential neighborhood, resulting in the location of the gasoline underground storage tanks to possibly within 50 feet of neighboring residential properties. If you vote to amend the proposed ordinance, you are voting to pay back for political election contributions you received for your personal election costs. You sit here and propose and write zoning ordinances to protect residential and business neighborhoods of the town, which, in my opinion, you do a very poor job of seeing that the ordinances already in place you approve are enforced. Then, as in this case, you turn around and vote to amend ordinances to supersede ordinances already in place that protect residential as well as business properties. As in most cases, business people that request ordinance changes do not live within the town limits, so they do not care how their request for an ordinance change will affect the neighborhood they propose to establish their proposed business in. Please consider the safety, the security of the residential communities of the town of Irmo and vote no to amend this proposed ordinance change. Thank you.
My name is Richard Holliday. Live on 607 Charing Cross Road, which is directly behind the Burger King. Our property is directly behind the drive-through. But we have always been here to oppose that property getting gas pumps. And it's not hard to imagine or suspect that that's the prime mover, and he's the prime mover in this. But you know, from the broad, well, what's already been pointed out, the broad impact that this is going to have on the whole community of Irmo, I just question the wisdom of town council opening this up, these kind of things. The other question I have is not to accuse, but to ask. Does any of the council have neighborhood commercial property that belong to them? And certainly if they do, should they not recuse themselves from this and not to avoid conflict of interest? I appreciate all the things that have been said before, and we of course are opposed. So I hope you vote this change down.
Thank you.
My name is Dwayne Roberts. I live at 612 Charing Cross Road, which is the next block over from the Burger King. I've been here every time this has come up to oppose it. And I ditto everything everyone else has said already. I am still opposed to it, and all of you on the council know that we have been opposed to it all along. I don't understand then how it is that we keep having to come back up here to protect ourselves. We elect y'all to protect us and represent the citizens of Irmo, and that's what you should do instead of representing one person just so he can have what he wants. I mean, we're the voters, and we give you the opportunity to work for us, to represent us. And so that's what we expect that you should do. And so I also ask, when you have your discussion, if any of you have anything to gain from passing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Lim Holsclaw, 100 Lordship Lane. I know you're looking at each other and saying, oh no, here he comes again.
We're glad to see you, Lim.
Thank you. Again, when we started this some 15 years ago, we crowded the cafeteria at the elementary school with people opposed to this. At that time, I remember 2 council members that are sitting up here today that promised us that they would be behind us and oppose this ordinance change. We fought that change because of the fact that it's not just for our neighborhood, it's for the rest of the town. Because anytime you can protect the neighborhoods, you're protecting the value of those neighborhoods, you're protecting the value of the property of those neighborhoods, and in turn, you're protecting the value of the property value of the businesses. And without the businesses, relying on the people that are around them, taking care of them, then they're going to move. If you don't believe me, go right up 2 Knots Road from Taylor Street out 2 Knots Road. At one time, 21 years ago, when I first moved to Columbia, that was a thriving area. The city of Columbia did not protect the property values of the people behind them. They let anything move in on 2 Knots Road because it was a big thoroughfare. They put general commercial, and that's exactly what this is general commercial. It falls under general commercial to be put behind these people's homes. The home values dropped. Lesser people moved into them, and the businesses moved out. Columbiana Mall was a great place to shop when I first moved here. Now I wouldn't go there during the day, let alone at night. It all moved out to Sand Hills. Do you want Irmo to be leapfrogged the way 2 Knots Road has been? Okay? That's the whole reason we've been fighting this for 17, 15, 16 years. The property was, this particular property that started all this was bought, purchased, with the understanding it was neighborhood commercial, and this is what the property was supposed to be. He's tried it, he's come back, it's went to court, it was, the court upheld what the zoning board of appeals, which I sit on, stated, which is what Irmo stated, which Irmo wants for their comprehensive land use manual. What we want the city to look like in 20 years from now, the next 20 years. If you change this, you're changing that, you might as well shred it. So again, without me saying it, I know there's a couple members up here that promised us that they would be on our side. And I want to respectfully ask y'all to decline this. Thank you.
My name is Eileen King, Mrs. Hardy King, 501 Doncaster. I live in the old Friars Gate neighborhood, and this amendment would greatly change what my neighbors have been fighting for. My understanding is that neighborhood commercial is used as a buffer between higher intensity commercial development. Neighborhood commercial is designed for neighborhood-friendly businesses, not 24-hour businesses. So I'm asking that you vote no this evening. And also I'd like to find out during your discussion time whether the Planning Commission approved this, who voted for it, and also if any of you have received campaign contributions from Bob Brandy. I think you should recuse yourselves.
Anyone else who would like to address council on this matter? Seeing none, we will close out the public hearing session, and we will begin our regular meeting of the Irmo Town Council. And I will recognize Kathy Conlon, Councilwoman Kathy, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we ask you to give us the wisdom tonight to do the town's business in the best possible way. During this season of Thanksgiving, we are grateful to you for all of our bounty, for all of our many blessings, and for giving us the opportunity to sit on this council. We ask for safe travel for everyone, especially the citizens of our town, and the safe return of all our troops which are overseas. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Next item on our agenda is the reading and approval of the minutes for October 16th, 2012. Is there a motion for approval of the October 16th minutes?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion? Being none, all in favor of approval of the minutes as written, do so with show of hands. And also the approval of the minutes for October 23rd. Is there a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Everyone in favor of approval of those minutes as written, do so with show of hands. And next item is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you'd like to add to Mr. Secretary?
Just a reminder that in 2 weeks, on the 4th of December at 6 o'clock, will be the Christmas tree lighting ceremony that will precede the 7 o'clock council meeting in the park. And Mr. Green would like to come back and see council to finalize the plans before bidding them out for the new park. Council want to do that on the 4th of December, or if that would be all right, 4th of December would be all right?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Brown on anything on the
You said
Secretary?
in the minutes you told me something about February before they start doing anything.
Oh, yeah. They're going to bid it out in December, and normally bid it for 30 days, and we'll open up the bids, and it'll be first meeting in February where council will see all the bids and vote on it.
Well, January, it was not January.
We kept it kind of close because of the holidays. A lot of people, are gone for like a 3-week period prior to Christmas and right after New Year's. And we don't have the first meeting in January. So, I don't want to say definitely we would be ready to go on the 20th of January, when we might not be. But the first meeting in February, we can probably guarantee that.
February, first meeting in February.
I don't know what it is, the 3rd, 4th.
I don't know where, I mean, is the 4th? February 4th?
I'm not sure, Kim's looking, I don't have.
But
a
the
calendar.
second meeting in January,
First meeting in February.
first meeting in February would be the 5th.
Okay. So there's no problem with us doing it by the 5th?
It'll be on the agenda,
On the 5th?
on the 5th.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions of Mr. Brown on the briefing? If none, then we will move to the next item on the agenda is receipt of communication, and I think Kathy wanted to.
Yes. We had some concerns in building the new park, which will also back up to Old Friars Gate and Fox Run. And I asked some of the people who abut that property if they would be interested in an appraiser's opinion of that. And of course, they were. The first thing I found out is not every appraiser in town is leaping to come to a political event and give his opinion. And even though that was difficult to take, I did find one who has been very loyal to this town. He's very well qualified and has the highest appraisal designation you could get, and he agreed to come. I hasten to add, according to South Carolina licensing law, neither Mr. Urso nor any real estate agent nor anyone connected with real estate can give you a future value of your home. To my knowledge, the only person that can do that is either a certified financial planner or a certain type of stockbroker. What Mr. Urso can do is tell you what your home is worth today, considering all economic factors, maintenance, upkeep, the price of homes around you, all that type of thing. So I thank him for coming, and I thank you for going and looking at the park and giving us your opinion.
Thanks, Steve. Is this free?
Hmm?
Is this free?
No, it wasn't free.
Mr. Mayor, council persons, Mrs. Condon asked me to look at the proposed park and the neighborhoods surrounding it that adjoin it with an eye to my opinion as to what effect this park would have on these properties. On the morning of October the 31st, I met Mr. Whit Klein, and we went in the town pickup truck, and I commend you on a very nice vehicle. I'd like to have one like it. But we bounced around all over the property and looked at the way the property lies, the drainage, all these things, and then we went out and went into the neighborhoods that adjoin the park. Mrs. Condon had furnished me with a drawing of the proposed park, and I have to say that I think it's a beautiful park. Now, as to whether or what effect this will have, I can unequivocally say in my experience, some 32 years as an appraiser in the Columbia area and those 32 years living in very close proximity to Irmo, I have never known of a park or a park to be constructed to ever have any detrimental effect on the value of real estate. The park will be there for all who want to use it because it's a public park. Now, as any real estate agent will tell you, if they're trying to sell a piece of property, they are glad to boast the fact that the property lies in very close proximity to shopping, schools, churches, and recreational facilities. Now, I do a good many appraisals for Fannie Mae, and Fannie Mae says that we cannot use the same canned information, but that is in every one of my reports because I think that's something that the landowner, the banker, needs to know, that the property is close to shopping, schools, churches, and recreational facilities such as parks, pools, things of that nature. And after all said and done, isn't that kind of where we live? Isn't that what our life is all about, is education, shopping, and schools and churches and so forth? So in my considered opinion, this park will in no way damage the value of any of this property. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about gas station? Pardon? What about gas station?
Sir, you just sprung that on me, and I haven't had time to consider it, but if you'd be willing to pay my fee, I'd be delighted to consider it.
Thank you.
Any other city communication?
Yes, I do. This is something that is just kind of housekeeping, but we have a mutual aid agreement with the Lexington Medical Center. Their Department of Public Safety is pretty much a standard issue that says that they help us if we need their help, and we help them if they need our help. And it's one of those things that we do on somewhat of a regular basis, is to take a look at it again and re-sign it. And we have the same one that we've had before, and it's just needing to be signed so that we have an up-to-date date on it.
Correct.
And the chief has presented that to us. We've done this for other areas and other, help me here, other departments, like the fire department and other police departments and that type of thing. So we have that. I would ask that we consider it for signature.
Do we need to vote on it, or just?
No, sir, it just needs to be reflecting the minutes.
Okay.
It does need to be approved.
Okay.
It needs to be approved.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask for approval and to instruct the town administrator to affix the appropriate signatures. Does that work, Council?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
That's my recommendation.
Good question. I saw City Columbia police officer pull over somebody over there in Piggly parking lot, the old Piggly. Does that mean that with this mutual aid agreement, do they have authority now to arrest folks in our town or pull people over?
No, the way these are written is like if a disaster or an unusual occurrence took place and we needed more police officers than we had on staff, we could call the City of Columbia for assistance. They would send officers to us for the purpose of the temporary emergency or unusual occurrence. What you're describing sounds like a traffic violation that took place in the city limits and people just didn't pull over until they got to the shopping center.
Oh, okay. That might be, I don't know. That's all over there. Okay.
Any other received communication?
We want to vote on this or not?
We did.
Yeah. You were thinking about your question.
Are you in approval?
Yeah.
Are you? Okay. Next item is presentation by citizens. And this is the area where anything that's on our agenda tonight that a citizen can come address council must be something that's on the agenda. And the only thing, again, we ask is that you give us your name and address for the record. I know we just had a public hearing on one of the items, but again, if somebody wants to address that, they're still welcome to under that. But, you know, if they don't, that's fine too. But, and then just let us know what item you're going to be addressing that's on the agenda.
My name is Ruby Miller, and I live at 131 Bridgewater Circle here in Old Friars Gate in Irmo, South Carolina. I will be addressing unfinished business number C, discussion of internet correspondence and email.
Any new business?
New business, yes.
New business. It was 131 what?
Bridgewater Circle in Irmo, South Carolina.
Mayor, speak to the lady over there with the computer.
I've just distributed information that is on your Facebook. As a nonpartisan mayor,
You talking about on my Facebook or our Facebook?
your Facebook.
No, ma'am, this is not on my Facebook. You can look at it right now and see it, but it's not on here. It's not on my timeline, and it may be on my, what do you call it, news feed, which anybody can post stuff on the news feed and it's going to show up, but this is not on my timeline.
Well, it
And
shows
I
that
noticed you marked out, where did this come from?
it's a copy from your Facebook, the information
From,
that,
timeline or
the information
from,
that you showed that you liked and you posted and you shared.
No, who did I share this with?
Let the lady talk. It's
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. if
Okay,
it's on
well-
my
She wants to
timeline.
talk. Let her talk.
Okay,
I would like to see, it's not on my Facebook, I can show you right now.
okay. You have identified yourself as the mayor of Irmo on your Facebook.
Correct.
What we've distributed is a copy of very disturbing and profiling comments. When I read it, I found the comments offensive and also derogatory to a large group of your Irmo constituents. What I'd like to know is what it is about these comments that you liked enough to share. If I need to read them, I will.
Well, I can read them, but again, it's not on my timeline. I'm sitting here looking at it, and so is Bob. I received a call yesterday from a gentleman that said he had heard this on the radio station, and we looked, couldn't find it. I
Why
looked
don't
on
you
my,
read what you had?
Okay. Give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Give a man a welfare check, a free cell phone, food stamps, Section 8 housing, a 6-pack of beer, a crack pipe, and some Air Jordans, and he'll vote Democrat the rest of his life. Okay? Now, according to the information that we have, you had it posted on your Facebook page, on
I'm
your
looking at my
Facebook.
timeline now, and it's not on there. It hasn't been on there. Now, it may have been on my, what do you call it, news feed, where somebody posted on theirs and it shows up on mine, but there's nothing I can do about that.
Well, it shows that it was sent to you and also that you shared it. That's what Facebook is showing. That you had acknowledged receipt of it and you'd shared it. It's on the Facebook, okay? There's no reason for us to stand and say that it is when it's not. I just wanted to get your comments. I just wanted to get your comments about this statement.
You know, if somebody posts something on there, if I understand Facebook correctly, if somebody posts something on their Facebook and they're a friend of mine or I'm a friend of theirs, and it shows up under my news feed, it's there because they posted it.
And you
Correct.
shared it, and you shared it, but what are your comments
I
about
don't
these
know that I
statements?
shared it.
Okay,
You're
what are
saying
these,
I shared it.
yeah,
I
what are
don't know
these,
that I
what is
shared
your
it.
comments about these statements? I didn't come to debate, I just wanted to find out your comments and your statements and your belief in reference to these statements.
Well, first of all, I'll say this. This is a personal matter. This is not a town matter. And so if you want to comment, you can call me on the phone, you can email me, you can Facebook me, you can ask me after the meeting, and I'll comment, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay, this is
a
not,
town issue.
this would be a town issue, especially if you've identified yourself
This
as
is a
Mayor of
personal
Irmo.
issue.
As you've identified yourself as the Mayor of Irmo.
Well, That's your opinion?
Right, it is.
Okay. Anyone else who'd like to address council on the presentation?
Yes. Yes.
And again, just name and address for the record.
My name is Terry Grayson. I live at 330 Warstell Road. I came here tonight to speak my mind about the Facebook fiasco. And I'm not going to mince words with you or anyone else in this assembly. And I'm not going to apologize for my frankness. One second. I'm missing part of my presentation. I think there it is. Sorry, thank you. That this Facebook posting that has enraged so many in this community is masked in innuendo and implicit meanings that are as hateful, demeaning, and divisive as burning a cross on our front yards. In cowardly fashion, the wording is calculated to avoid the legal ramifications of racism. We all know that you cannot nail slime to the wall, but it is slime nevertheless. The reference to cell phones, food stamps, and sneakers is an attempt to make the attack relevant to our day. But the sentiments expressed are nothing new. They are simply out of step with the times. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued more than 150 years ago. The Voting Rights Act became law 50 years ago. The war between the states, in which your great-grandfather may have fought, is over. And yet, 3-4 generations later, you are still carrying around the burden of hate that predestined his defeat.
And you're addressing that to our council.
You're wasting your life and our time fighting lost battles. Real freedom is the ability to move on, to make this a better world for ourselves, our children, and our community today. When I read the words of this Facebook posting, I am appalled that grown men can be so ignorant, so fearful, so insecure that they must degrade others in order to feel good about themselves. It is inexcusable that these hateful words are out there on the internet for any child to see and to read. Your approval and sharing of these hurtful words is irresponsible behavior from someone who purports to be our community leader. The words suggest that you, with your meager education and small experience of this world, are somehow better than the people you serve. Do you know that your constituency consists of laborers, lawyers, doctors, publishers, professors, writers, businessmen and women? None of us has any reason to look up to you. We live side by side and share a sense of community that fosters hope for our children, our grandchildren, and our neighbors' children. We enjoy meeting each other on the street and at the school bus stop and sharing a conversation over the backyard fence. We help each other when we see the need. We care about each other. But the words you shared on the internet seek to divide us. They are symptomatic of an old and familiar cancer that threatens the life of this town. I don't want you for a neighbor, and I'm glad you don't live on my street, because you just wouldn't fit in there. The message on your Facebook page places you in bed with the uneducated and the ignorant, who delude themselves that they can turn back the hands of time, who will never do anything in this life but to breed hate. And none of us wants to be like you. What you have done is no joke.
You need to hurry up.
It isn't even cute, and it certainly isn't smart.
Running out of time. You need to.
It's definitely not Christian. It is objectionable and unacceptable. You are not a credit to this town. You are an embarrassment. I have reached an age when I can look back and see how your backwoods thinking has held all of us back in the 19th century. I think it's important for you to understand that even if you could recreate the South of your dreams, you wouldn't be among the 2 or 3% who own the plantations. With your education and your socioeconomic background, you'd be lucky to have a job as a stable boy. If that's your dream, you can have it. The rest of us have moved on. Bigotry and racism and ignorance do not create a climate that nurtures business, jobs, or economic progress. The best industries, the best schools, the best medical centers, the best jobs cannot be found in South Carolina. And it's because too many of you are clinging to an idea of a glorious South that never existed. You're dragging us down. It would be in the best interest of this community if you stepped aside and let someone with a 21st century vision assume leadership. I don't expect that you will, but be assured that we, all of the people of Irmo, are watching you and will hold you accountable for every move you make, every word you utter that affects the well-being of this community. This is our town, not yours. The question remains whether you can be trusted to act in the interest of everyone in this community, or if you will continue to serve the few who support the misguided understanding of government. I have 2 sentences.
Okay, thanks.
If you put your mind to work on real problems in this town, there would be less need for welfare or food stamps, and maybe we could all afford a new pair of sneakers.
Pam Roberts, 612 Charing Cross Road. I came to this council meeting tonight about the public hearing. Had no idea about this Facebook thing. My father told me that my business was my business, not to tell everybody, which is part of the problem with Facebook. We've heard the lady's comments. She's forgetting one thing. The Bill of Rights still says we have freedom of speech. And if you read anything on Facebook, the internet, if you spend any time there, you're going to find something you don't like and something you don't agree with. We have pornography. We have political speech we don't like. There's things we don't like everywhere. But every one of us still has the freedom of speech to say it, as long as we don't scream fire in a building. And the other thing is that it seems to me that tonight the whole council stood and was tried without a jury. And I do not approve of that. And I have been in Irmo for over 35 years. And I've never heard such a tirade at council. It's shameful. You give your time, your energy to the town. You don't have to do it. And there should be more respect. Freedom of speech and trial by jury.
Now let me remind everyone here that this is a public meeting and this is a cordial meeting. And we're going to keep it that way. I'm not going to listen to whether it's me or any of the other council members up here. If somebody wants to bad mouth them, we're not going to do that. That's not what this meeting is about. I think Councilman Walker put something on the discussion tonight for internet correspondence. It appears to me now, trying to figure out what this was about, and now we know what it's all about. But just remember, this is a public meeting. Any personal comments we need to keep to ourselves. Anything that's benefit to the community, please speak. Just your name and address for the record, and also what item is that you're speaking to.
Thank you, sir. My name is Deborah Breedlove. I'm at 105 Leamington Way in Irmo. Did want to address the council and to you, Mayor Hardy. We do have more information when we get to that point that shows the date, which was September 18th. One good thing about social media, it doesn't go away. We can always go back and dig away, even if you take it off your post. Anyway, I was dismayed.
I just wanted to ask real quick, you said September 18th?
September 18th, yes. We'll give the proof, because you need proof, because apparently you're going to deny it. I was dismayed and disappointed at recent revelations that one of our elected public officials, Mayor Hardy King, would embrace ideas that could be polarizing and divisive. Though it is true that each of us can believe whatever we would like and have the freedom to express our views, it is most troubling because his values might skew his advocating for the citizens of Irmo. One cannot choose the family we are born into, but we can choose the community in which to settle. My husband and I chose this in the year 2000, to raise a family and to lend our support to. I ask you to please take the necessary steps to assure that the Irmo community has not made a poor choice in representation with you as mayor. I know lots of Democrats, and none of them fit that profile that was found on your page that you did not write, but you said, so very true, September 13th, 2012. So this is a disgrace. So people, I just want you to know, a lot of us came today because we wanted to express our disgust with that kind of statement. So I just want to ask the people who came in support of what we were talking about to please just stand so we can see. Many more would have been coming. They're staying at home. Thank you. Staying at home, preparing their Thanksgiving dinners, going out of town. Some of my neighbors read this, were disgusted. My pastor was disgusted. I wonder if yours would, if he would read something like that. Even if you say you didn't do it, we have no place and no time for anybody who has this kind of beliefs and is getting paid by the city of Irmo to spread this kind of junk. Thank you.
My name is Joan Mobley. I live at 1701 Chafford Road. I saw that on the Facebook page. It's not there now, but I did see it. And it was so upsetting to me, I couldn't talk about it that day. There are a lot of, I respect the lady who stood up here and said that this is not the forum and we shouldn't break people down and that we should have freedom of speech. But even with freedom of speech, I can't scream fire in a place where there's no fire. The same thing applies to these statements. They are very diverse. When they appear on my personal page, come see me personally. But when they appear on the mayor of Irmo's page, that's no longer personal. Someone in Sumter made me aware of this. They said, what in the world is going on in Irmo? This is on your mayor's page. And I was appalled. And I understand, you know, this is politics, and this was a time during which we had presidential races going on, and all of these political, you know, politics kind of maybe polishes over personalities. But that type of statement, and that just does not belong on my mayor's page, because you have to represent me. And fortunately, I don't fall into those stereotypical words on the post, but I certainly have friends that fall into those categories. And they're upstanding citizens. They just don't have the same breaks that I've had. They just don't have the same luck that I have. They've been out of work too long to do anything else. So I appreciate the lady who said that, you know, freedom of speech. You're right. I have the freedom to say anything that I want to say. But I can't scream fire when there isn't one, okay? And I certainly can't talk about any of my constituents. I can't post that on on my page as mayor to speak about any of my constituents. That's not freedom of speech. It's racism.
Dan DiMarino, 142 Sonning Road, Old Friars Gate. I came here for the gas pumps, so this is all new to me here, and I could only think that it would be a very stupid act if this actually happened. I can't believe it could have happened. I lean more towards character assassination and slander, and I hope that the mayor is going to get a whole bunch of apologies when the truth, if it ever does come out, comes out.
Wait, you're saying you're talking about gas pumps?
No, no. This what has just preceded me about these allegations on Facebook. I don't subscribe to Facebook. I don't understand the whole concept.
It's not allegations.
Well, I thought the mayor said that it wasn't his comments on it.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm confused. Okay, and that's why I'm thinking that if they were his comments, it'd be so stupid to put something like that out in his position. I couldn't accept it. Okay, but that's where I lead on to character assassination, slander. But he's a public official, so that probably wouldn't hold. But an apology, hopefully, will be forthcoming. But then something else came up when you said. When I'm listening back there and it says, you know, Hardy speaks to Walker and says he didn't know what was on the agenda. And if there's any friction amongst the council members here, that hurts us. And, you know, politics is politics, but this is, you know, pretty serious stuff. And I would hope that, Mr. Walker, you didn't have anything to do with this, you know, bring it on to the agenda and then, you know, spewing fire here.
Well, I did bring it on the agenda. I brought a section on the agenda to talk about correspondence and emails.
Yeah.
Now, these folks are addressing something that came up. It's correspondence and emails now.
This
Well, what I don't understand is, I'm tying all this together with the fuel pumps. I'm here for the fuel pumps.
Okay.
You're for the fuel pumps. I'm not for the fuel pumps. I don't think Hardy's with the fuel pumps. Well, if Brandy is donating to your political, you know, coffers, I put you, and I'm only a layman here, I don't know.
Okay.
But, so it would sort of like be an end run, throw some crap at Hardy, and, you know, take the heat off the fire pump, I mean, the pumps, the gas pumps. I'm here can you follow that? I mean, I know I might be rambling a bit.
These people in here. I didn't tell these people to come here and throw crap on Hardy, okay? I did not tell these folks to come in and throw crap on Hardy.
My last time here was about 2 years ago when these gas pumps came before panel. And I spoke about my discontent with it, okay? I don't know why we need new regulations. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm back to the gas pumps here. It would seem that there's no reason to change the codes. All right, so something has to move to change the codes. So why not discredit somebody who is, in my mind, against the gas pumps, discredit him, and you got another vote, or if he recuses himself from the vote. I'm sorry to ramble on, guys, but I just couldn't believe that this Facebook matter could actually happen by an elected official in Irmo. We're not in D.C. And it's just maybe people are slick enough to use it to their advantage for an alternate ruling on the gas pumps. Sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address council? If none, then we will move to unfinished business, section A. And we have second reading of ordinance 1218 to amend our business license ordinance for provisions for insurance companies. Is there a motion for second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And what we're doing here, and I will kind of let Mr. Brown maybe go over that, just to do with the collection of the premiums that insurance companies pay. The town of Irmo gets a portion of that based on who lives in the town, who pays their premiums here in town, and the municipal association collects that money from the state, is that correct? And then they divvy it up between all the towns. Because of the changes to the code going from the SIC code to the NIACS, I think, because of that, we have to redo our business license to kind of reappoint them to collect that money on behalf of us. Is that kind of the best gist of it?
Basically, they have been collecting for a number of years, and they do it for the state, and then they are the ones that distribute the money back out to the municipality. So if we can't figure out, they ask the insurance company how much money you get on your premiums and who they come from. But the state has the ability to collect the insurance agency for the state. So it is administrative, but that's where we get a lot of revenue.
And could I add just a couple of things that I think might help? And based on some of the things that have been said here this evening, as to why we're doing this, the old code that we've been using is antiquated, and the new national code, so that businesses coming into town kind of know what's happening and what they can do once they get here. That it's a standard of the business license. A business that opens up in town in a storefront has a business license. But many of the insurance companies that, let me just pick one, and not to pick on any given one, but Mutual of Omaha. I happen to know that there's not a storefront in the town that's operated by Mutual of Omaha. However, I can assure you that Mutual of Omaha writes insurance within the town. So to be fair, as one might put it, I thought it was very appropriate. Real freedom is the ability to move on. And in doing that, we try to be very fair. It's not right for the businesses that have a storefront to have to pay a business license. And someone that operates through the internet or just through the telephone to sell insurance, for example, wouldn't have to pay a business license. So the state of South Carolina, through the municipal association, collects a small premium for them to be able to do business within this state. It not only is life insurance companies, but automobile insurance companies and that type of thing. So that in itself helps level that playing field as far as business licenses go in the town. And those business license fees is what keeps us. In 2005, we were able to eliminate the millage for the town of Irmo, tax millage. So there is 0 tax millage in the town of Irmo since 2005, and that business license fees is what has allowed us to do that.
Anyone else want to? All in favor then of second reading of ordinance 1218, to do so with show of hands. Item B is second reading of ordinance 1219 to amend our zoning ordinance, which is what we were talking about earlier tonight, section 2.2, use of tables in table 1 to permit businesses with the NAICS code 447110 and 447190 to operate in neighborhood commercial. They already, if I understand, they already operate general commercial and light manufacturing. So we're just kind of adding neighborhood commercial to it. Is there a motion for second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will recognize Councilman Walker first for discussion since he made the motion, and I'll go to second if you want to do that, but I'm going to jump in there if it wants to.
We're, basically what we're doing here is making the NIACS code 447110 and 447190 uniform across the town in all neighborhood commercial, general commercial, and light manufacturing. And it's not specifically for one location, it's for the entire town of Irmo. And this is uniformly, since all the gas stations, most of the gas stations we have now are in neighborhood commercial, this will allow them to all operate on the same platform. Somebody was open up one here.
This piece of property has, it is in a commercial zone anyway. It's got the interstate, it's got the 4-lane road in front of it, which is a federal highway. There's commercial properties all around it. It's just this one piece of property that's the only convenience store in the town of Irmo that does not have gas pumps, which is because the way Irmo had changed some laws back a few years ago. That's the reason why they don't have gas pumps. So it's trying to get everything uniform around town, like some other cities around the Midlands areas. They have the same type of policy. So that's all we're doing, just trying to make sure everybody's it's fair playing field, you know, as far as gas pumps in neighborhood commercial.
Any other comments?
Well, I would, I just want to be very clear that this property is now zoned neighborhood commercial and will remain zoned neighborhood commercial unless the property owner were to come to council with a request for rezoning. He has not, to my knowledge. It has not been given to us. So it will not be zoned, this will not rezone that property, and I think that's a misconception that some folks have, that it will rezone it to general commercial. It will not. It is neighborhood commercial now and will remain neighborhood commercial. To answer a couple of the other points that were raised, first off, I have always voted against neighborhood commercial. I think the property that has been brought up here tonight, Mr. Brandy's property, the Burger King property, has petitioned the town, I know of 2, possibly 3 times, to rezone that from neighborhood commercial to general commercial. I was opposed to that, have always been opposed to it, and would continue to be opposed to it. Because we need neighborhood commercial to buffer between residential property and general commercial. Though that property sits right in the middle and surrounded by general commercial type areas, the interstate, Broad River Road, the property where the Toyota dealership is at, or property on the other side of Broad River Road, general commercial. It's surrounded by that. I still think it needs to remain neighborhood commercial, but like Mr. Younger said, this happens to be one of those properties that's the only one in town that is not given the complete benefits of neighborhood commercial that other properties so enjoy. Just the one down 150, maybe 100 yards at the most, is another convenience store, neighborhood commercial, but that one was there prior to a change of zoning that prohibited the gas pumps. So this is not...
Therefore, the neighborhood was there.
This is not neighborhood commercial being changed to general commercial, number one. And the final statement is I have never taken a penny from Mr. Brandy at any time as far as any political or any other matter. So I have no allegiance or any kind of payback. I'm just looking for real freedom and the ability to move on and be fair to everyone.
I have a problem with anything that detracts from residential, single-family residential property. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. I don't think I could ever vote for it, because it could be me, and that's my concern. I don't want a gasoline tank buried 50 feet from my property line. If you ask anybody in real estate, what's the biggest detriment to your property value? They'll say gas pumps, muffler shops, brake repair in your backyard. That'll do it. So I cannot in good conscience vote for this, even though it may be the fair thing to do for business. It's not the fair thing to do to property owners. And I didn't take any money from Bob Brandy, nor did he offer any.
Let me make a few comments too that or some of us, we say that we're doing this to be fair. The Kangaroo Court, or Kangaroo gas station, is the only gas station. Every time I see that, that's what I think of, is Kangaroo Court. But it's the only gas station in town that I'm aware of, that I'm thinking about. I just went through all the lists and I could have missed some. It backs up to a single-family residential. The Circle K, which is up here on Lake Murray Boulevard, is a neighborhood commercial zone, but it's backed up by Kroger. And there's also, which I forgot that, Kroger. Kroger also has a gas station right next to it. That one's in general commercial because Kroger was in general commercial. The Shell Mart over here on Royal Tower has a church behind it, a car wash at the side of it, and across the street is a daycare and a little strip shopping center. And then down below that car wash is a dentist office and another church. So it's pretty much completely surrounded by commercial properties of some type, but not a residential neighborhood. There are, at my best count, 8 other service stations in town. There's one at Kroger. There is the 2 on Lake Murray Boulevard, the Broad River Mobile, Mr. Brandy's place at Broad River and Kinley, the new Hickory Point that opened up, the gas stations up there at Biscuit House, whatever that place is, Walmart and Seamart. So there's 8 other gas stations in town that have a general commercial zoning to them that I believe, I'm not 100% sure of that, but every one of those that I can look on that map is not in a neighborhood commercial zone. And I could be wrong with that, I'm just kind of counting and looking at it. But altogether, that means there's 12 service stations in town, and I guess the numbers would be 25% of them are in the neighborhood commercial. 75% of them are in the general commercial. So making it fair is not what we're doing. What we're actually doing is, if you look on that map, and I don't know if anybody wants to hold that map up, if you would, Bob, to let people look at it. Well, Nim said he would. But everything that's on that map that's in orange color is neighborhood commercial property that we're talking about.
No, the big one. Mr. Big one.
Yeah. That one shows all the zoning in on there, but this one just shows the property that we're talking about that are neighborhood commercial in orange, and the yellow is residential. So it shows where those properties back up. Now, my best count, if I've counted correctly, and I'm not 100% sure I did that because, as we've heard, I'm ignorant and stupid and can't count. So, but being that said, there's 152 more or less properties on that map that are neighborhood commercial properties where someone could put a gas station if they so choose. Now, I know every one of them is not going to be a great location for a gas station. 95 of those, more or less, touch residential properties. So out of the 152 that we're talking about now, we can have gas pumps. 95 of them touch residential properties, and about 65 of them, and this is my, again, uneducated, ignorant guess, is that 65 of those, if I were someone that wanted to open up a gas station, I would look at those locations and pick out some of those, and these are good locations. For instance, on Broad River Road and Royal Tower, where the current Friars Gate sign is, that property right there is bigger than the property where the Burger King is now. You could probably put 2 service stations in that location. That's for sale, so one could go there. Now, a lot of those other places up Broad River Road that you were talking about, somebody might have to buy 2 or 3 of them. There's on St. Andrews Road from the video place, Blockbuster's Video, all the way down to the hospital. Pretty much everything in that area there is zoned neighborhood commercial. So one could buy 2 or 3 of those properties if they're not doing good. And it's not that they're going to buy them tomorrow, today, probably in the next 2 years. But within the next 15, 20 years, they become very more valuable as to putting in another gas station. I've got off the interstate in many trips out of town where there's 4, 5, or 6, or 7 gas stations side by side. So if somebody wants to put one more, they could even buy the Waffle House and the Lucky's Hamburger Joint and put another one there. Would they do that in the next 2 years? I don't know. But there are 65 properties on there. At the end of Chadford Street and Farming Creek, those 2 lots in there, one of them does belong to the town, but one on the other side, both of those are big enough to put a gas station. Everything from Walgreens on Lake Murray Boulevard down to Wendy's and back up to the entrance into Hill Creek subdivision, all of that property is zoned neighborhood commercial. And some of those tracts in there, like their relatives, the younger girls up there, that property is very big enough for that. So there are a lot of locations in the area that we're now saying that in order to make it fair for this one business, because they back up to a residential neighborhood, we're now going to allow it in possibly 65 more locations. I don't think that's real fair. It may be fair for somebody who wants up a gas station, but it's not fair for the residents of Irmo. It's not fair for the residents that live behind there. And Mr. Glassmeyer is correct in what he mentioned. You know, we're not just talking about gas stations. You know, we're also talking now about automobile repair shops, muffler shops, and all that other stuff, which I think that changes the whole picture. One of the other concerns I have, and I'm not sure, Mr. Brown, you might know, if I own a property that's neighborhood commercial, and I want to build just anything on of whatever may fit, is the buffer zone on that any different than the buffer zone on general commercial? So if I'm in a neighborhood commercial and I back up to residential, is the buffer zone required any different than if that were a general commercial and I back up to a residential? So what we're allowing is somebody could come in and buy a neighborhood commercial, smaller lot.
Smaller buffer.
And have smaller buffer and fit it in there as opposed to paying more for a general commercial zone lot and having a bigger buffer. So I think there's some things in there that we really haven't thought about that needs to be thought about a little bit more before we do, you know, final reading on it. I just think the easiest thing for us to do would be to change the zoning on Circle K from neighborhood commercial to general commercial, and then the Shell Mart from neighborhood commercial to general commercial. And then you'd only have one service station in town that is a neighborhood commercial that backs up to a residential neighborhood, and that was grandfathered in, as they said, when the neighborhood and everything got annexed in, or built, or whatever. And there's nothing we can do about that until that place either closes or whatever. But in order to make it fair for, I just don't see that argument floating water, because there's 8 other ones that all have neighborhood commercial zoning, and they're 75% of the gas stations in town. I do think this is a lot of trying to get gas pumps in a particular location. And one thing too that I would almost believe would be possible is that the town council changes the zoning under neighborhood commercial to allow gas pumps. And then Mr. Brandy applies for his permit and gets his gas pump and gets his service station built. And then council comes back and says, oh, well, we did make a mistake. Let's go back and change it the other way. And now he's locked in and grandfathered in as well. So I just don't think none of this is above board. We tried to do it under a different format before, and we came back and did it this way. But it still shows, in my opinion, what we're up to is just trying to allow one individual to have gas pumps, and at the same time allowing 65 other residential properties to have either a gas station or a automobile parts or a muffler shop or whatever being built behind them the next day. I just don't think it's a good idea. And it doesn't go to protect the neighborhood values. And as the one lady spoke, neighborhood commercials are buffer zones between high-intensity commercial use and single-family residential. And I just think this goes against the grain. And I don't know, I think the question was asked too, I didn't ever hear, did the planning commission, what was their vote? How did they vote on it, or what did they, are they even heard it?
They met on 10 December and it's unanimous approval.
Okay. Okay. So, any more comments?
I just want to say I haven't taken any political contributions from Mr. Brandy. In fact, I've never met him, so that has nothing to do with my decision.
The planning commission voted unanimously to approve this?
They did.
This particular change?
They did.
Call for the question.
Everybody ready to vote?
Okay, I'm gonna call for the question.
All in favor of second reading for second, or for ordinance 1219, and I'm gonna just say to allow gas pumps in neighborhood commercial, and all this other stuff that's written here.
It's not to allow gas pumps in neighborhood commercial.
Well, it's allow gas stations in neighborhood commercial. That's what the two codes are. Do so with show of hands.
It's not to allow gas pumps in neighborhood commercial. It's to change.
We can debate that all the time.
But read the ordinance.
I am reading, and it says to allow 447-110, 447-190, and both of those are convenience stores with gas pumps or
No, it isn't.
gas stations, whatever.
No, it isn't.
Well, then what are
Read the ordinance the way it's written.
I mean, it's what those two codes are.
One's to allow convenience stores with gas pumps, and the other one's convenience stores without gas pumps to operate in neighborhood commercial.
One of them is convenience store with gas stations, and the other is gas stations without convenience stores.
You're right, so they're both gas stations, yeah. Gas pumps.
Why don't we vote on 8B?
I know.
Yeah, that's what we,
He's reading something else. I don't know what he's reading.
I'm just saying to allow gas pumps in neighborhood commercial.
That's not what the ordinance is, though. Why don't you
Well,
say what the ordinance is and we'll vote on it?
I don't want to say all that. If you want to make a motion and say all that, then you can make a motion and say all that.
Last time I thought you were the mayor.
He did, he did make a motion.
Okay. So we can get petty up here all night long, I guess y'all can see that, but is, do y'all want to vote?
On 8B.
Or any more discussion? Yeah. So all in favor then of second reading of ordinance 1219? Please show of hands. That's right?
1219.
Yeah.
To change the zoning. Okay.
Do so with show of hands. And all opposed?
And it requires one more reading, right?
Right, one more reading. And now we're on to new business. Item A, approval of appointee to the TPAC committee. And Ms. Walker, you asked for that to be on the agenda. I'll recognize you.
Yeah, we just got that penny, I believe that Richland County passed that penny sales tax increase.
Are you sure?
All indication that they voted and re-voted and recounted, they think they passed it.
But it might change.
And maybe as a result of that, now we'll have to have a representative from the town of Irmo to be on that committee to oversee that penny tax, to make sure it gets spent the way they said it was going to get spent. Therefore, we need to appoint somebody from the community, preferably not a politician, preferably somebody who's not elected, preferably somebody who's not involved with, just a layperson, basically, to go to these meetings and represent the town of Irmo at all these little meetings, make sure that that penny tax is properly dispersed throughout the community. And then, of course, Irmo is, gets whatever it gets into. So that's what we're here doing right now. I think we had one person. Did you advertise it?
We did, we advertised it. We received one reply from Mr. Walter Lindler asking to be on it.
I know that we had discussed at council about the town administrator being on that committee. I think the town administrator, and I know Walter personally, Walter has served on other committees, commissions here in town. He's on the planning commission now. But my feeling is that the town administrator is going to be more knowledgeable about all the ramifications of this penny and how it could be spent in the town than anyone else, and the needs of the town. Nothing against Walter at all, but I know in some correspondence that, Bob, you've had with us, you talked about the time that could be involved. Do you think you would have the time? Is that something that was made very clear to Mr. Loomer? I know he works out of town some. As to the amount of time and regularity that he would have to be involved with this committee?
They plan on meeting once a quarter.
Once a quarter.
And I'm sure we'll get more involved as the money starts flowing.
I'm sure it will.
Get to a position where they actually want to prioritize where they're going to spend it.
Because they got, they're talking about the C funds also. They're just going to be impacting the just the transportation, okay.
Well, I think we realize the significance of this, because when they passed the local option sales tax, that 1 cent did away with our millage. Because that 1 cent was more than we took in our millage. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. I would want somebody on the committee who would bring back to us information about how it's spent, what it's spent, you know, all types of things. I want to know, because I know how much money it is.
Over the life, it's over $1 billion, and that's what the
That's a lot of money.
is in paper.
Yeah. I think because of our relationship with Bob, he would be a good candidate, and I like Walter too, and that's not it. But Bob let us know, because he's famous for his emails. To all of us, all the time.
And the only thing I would add is, if I'm correct in what I've heard, and I don't know what the difference is in Richland counties as opposed to the one that Lexington County is trying to do. But the one in Lexington County, the people that serve on that all those committees that they're gonna be appointing. They can't be elected, they can't be appointed, and they can't be an employee of a government. So I don't know how it's different. The only thing that I would warn you, so to speak, is that this committee is got 7 people, I think, from Richland County and 3 from the City of Columbia, and then 1 from each of the other municipalities. And then after all this recommendation, it's not so much how the money's going to be spent. They're actually saying, here's what we want the money to be spent on. They come up with a plan, and they give that plan to Richland County, and then Richland County can approve it, or reject it, or add to it, or just start back over.
That's correct. County council still makes the final
They make the final decision.
So the relationship with Richland County is important.
Well, and I just think a lot of the small municipalities are going to have a hard time getting money spent when you got the majority of the board, or the, not the board, but the committee made up of City of Columbia, Richland County. There's 10 to 5 or 10 to 3 or whatever the other municipalities are.
It doesn't help either when
we might be spending
Richland County.
We might be spending, or Bob might be spending, whoever might be spending a whole lot of time trying to fight for us a losing battle. 5 years from now, 7 years from now, we may, because I think from what they want is you've got to make recommendations to this committee as we want the money spent over here and how much of it on what projects. And then hopefully they will try to evenly disperse it out.
Well, that's the whole idea, is to hopefully get an even disbursement. And
Yes.
get something.
And I think that's gonna take a pretty strong person, and I'm very confident in how strong Bob can be. But again, nothing against Walter.
Not
So we do-
replacing. Not replacing.
Well, that's the warning I'm giving is, yeah, whoever takes that position might be at a detriment of trying to, get a whole lot of money for the municipality. I just, don't know. Anyway, so do we have, a recommendation, or do we have 2 recommendations?
I recommend that we appoint Bob Brown to be our administrator, or our TPAC representative.
I'd second that.
Any other appointments? All in favor then of Mr. Brown serving as the TPAC committee member, do so with show of hands. The next item is item B, approval to change our court part-time position to a full-time position. And Mr. Brown, I'm assuming staff, if you put that on there so you can explain it to us.
I did, and I sent everyone an email, and you should have a copy on your iPad regarding this. We have a part-time position that's helping out the clerk of court, and she has simply become overwhelmed with the workload. Now that we've added 3 full-time code enforcement officers, they are generating a lot of work for the court system. And officers are staying busy, and the part-time seem to come and go. It's a lot of hard work, and we think we'll be a little better off having a full-time position in there.
What are you doing that's so hard?
No, it's not paperwork. I mean, it's repetitive work that's in there.
All the charges, all the, well, this is a little I know.
You get court every week
Have to
with
be entered in a lot of different places, coordinated, make sure it's right in all the places that, then,
Just the volume of work
it's the
has
volume.
quadrupled. And we knew that when we started working on the landlord ordinance, that as we recognized these areas in town that needed to be improved, that those that needed more direction to get those changes made were going to have to come through the court system. And that's what's happening.
So is this one person we have? Is this one person can't, you saying they can't handle it, or is it so much that they get frustrated and quit?
No, the part-timers quit.
They're not here all the time.
Part-timers, right.
Yeah.
So what if we hire 2 part-timers?
We can keep it higher to get a full-timer.
We have to have a clerk of court.
Well, I'm saying two part-timers to help with the risk.
This would be a second person, 2 full-time people in the clerk of court's office. Again, you gotta remember, they handle anywhere from 100 to 150 jury trials a quarter. They have probably 100 cases every week in court, traffic court. So.
I don't know, Jay, tell me what's so difficult about court that they can't handle it, one person can't handle it. I mean, I go to City Columbia Court all the time and sit on there, and they have a lot more stuff going on.
We've got, you know, as this town has grown, we have seen a growth in the number of cases we're handling. Now, my partners and associates are doing more of the court work, and I know there's a lot of it. We've also got a significant amount of accounting to do, in that on each ticket that basically is a state revenue ticket, we have fines and assessments that have got to be segregated out, accounted for, and basically sent in. Now, we've got some sophisticated computer programs to do that, but the person whose judgment I would trust would basically be Bob's and the Chief's. I would be interested in the Chief's thought, but we do have a significant, we have a significant court load.
I mean, you had a full-time, Kathy was full-time, right? Kathleen.
We've always had a full-timer, it's just that we've always had a part-timer, just coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. And by the time you get in training, you're ready to leave again. That's been the whole problem for the last 5 years. We've had 7 part-timers.
Maybe if we hire the right part-timer, stick around.
But the problem is it takes several months to train them, I would think.
It takes a while to train.
I think we'd just have more longevity if we had a full-time than 2, 3, 4, or in this case, 7 part-timers over the last 5 years. It seems to be that that we're spending our time training these folks, and they move on to another court system, and then by the time we get our head above water, they move out, and then we get farther behind.
Right now, we have 1 full-time and 1 part-time.
We have no.
But she's
no part-time right now. They already.
We're getting help from Dean and the police department, so she's on the books already, in the part-time position.
So this one will become the full-time one, or it'll be offered to them, or offered her, or whoever. Okay.
Right. I mean, that's the plan.
Okay. And they're ready to go full-time, or willing to go, or even. Okay.
And the fact that we've already got a budget for the part-time position is only an increase like $19,000 between now and the end of June.
Okay. You ready to vote? All in favor then of approval to change our part-time position to a full-time, so basically we're going from 1 part-time, 1 full-time to 2 full-time.
Correct.
Do so with show of hands. Did someone make that motion? I didn't write it down maybe.
Nope.
Okay. I make a motion that we make a change to our court system employee from part-time to full-time, rendering us 2 full-time persons in the court system to handle the court documents. That is excluding the judges.
Second.
Now, all in favor? Vote again.
Oh, okay.
Just get it straight.
Okay, vote again.
All right, now, new business, item C, discussion of internet correspondence, email traffic. Mr. Walker, looks like you placed that on the agenda, so I will turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. We've been presenting tonight with some stuff from your Facebook page, and
I thought we were discussing email traffic.
can I explain to you what we're
That's not email.
Do you want to hear what I got to say? Or
Not unless it's got to do with email.
Okay, we can do it that way then. Your constituents have been assaulted by your postings on Facebook.
And that has nothing to do with email again.
And the emails that we've gotten back and forth from that.
I haven't got any.
Actually, well, I did. From other constituents have indicated that you've been basically tying into this kind of activity from the standpoint of the mayor of Irmo. So what we've seen here tonight is that folks have gotten wind of what you're saying, what you're posting on your email and posting on your internet sites, and they're upset about it. So the question is, what did you mean by this? Or what was your intent to distribute such information? And you don't have to answer me, but you have to answer them, because they are your constituents. And that's what their question is, and that's the question they pose to. It's really hard for us to fathom in the 21st century that you continue to proliferate some kind of nonsense like this. You expect stuff like this from high school.
First of all, I'm going to say,
And
you're
it's
saying
nonsense,
somebody's
isn't it?
proliferating it. I don't know what you're talking about, and this again is a
Well,
personal issue. It's not a town issue. It has nothing to do with email traffic that you put on here. You can ramble on all night long. I'm not going to address it. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to
Okay, well,
answer your
then
question.
sit there and don't respond then.
Okay.
All right, and I'll
Well,
tell you what I feel. And
You can do that in the email. You can do that in the email. or you
Join
can
us
do
in the
that on my
21st
Facebook.
century, Mr. King.
Well,
And that's my
you're making a lot of
trying to
accusations here of stuff that again, and that may have been September, I don't know what she said, 13 or 18, where somebody put it on, or
So you
somebody.
didn't do it? You didn't have any?
I cannot find it on my timeline. So if I understand
Does anybody have that?
Facebook correctly,
Print out?
oh, she just gave us a copy here, but stuff is marked out. Now, I've looked on my timeline. Now, I have a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean,
Mr.
the
Jay Moore,
voice-
for instance, has stuff on my Facebook because he's a friend of mine. I'm sure there's some other people in here, and I have a lot of friends, well, not as many as some people, I got 500, but there's a lot of stuff posted on there that I haven't even read it probably since the election.
But the problem is you responded to it, you liked it.
I don't know that I did, maybe I did.
You did.
I don't know.
You did. You liked it and you forwarded it to all your other 500 friends that you claimed to
But if
have.
I had forwarded it, then it had to be on my timeline. If I understand that correctly, is what my wife and my son told me, is that in order for me to share it to other people, I
So
have to
you
put it on my
admit you
timeline.
did have it then? If your wife would tell you you were on your time?
No, we went and looked for it. And she was telling me that in order for me to have it on my timeline, then I gotta put it there, or somebody has to put it there, which we could not find. But, and I'm not saying it's not there, I don't know. I'm just saying we went through my timeline all the way back to 2011, and we never could find anything.
So what other kind of misinformation are you promoting through the timeline? Or through
Could I make a
Facebook?
comment, please?
Well, my point is this, I'm getting accusations from.
Mr. Hardy, could I make a comment, please? My name
no.
is Carlotta Jeter, and I live in the Waterford subdivision. It was on the face page. We saw everything. If it was something you didn't agree with, you could have taken it down immediately and disavowed it.
No, we're not, and I'm gonna let Councilman Walker finish, and then
Yes.
we'll be through with this.
Right,
Y'all
it's
can
just,
email me all you want to, you can call me on my telephone, you can do whatever.
but as mayor of the town of Irmo and for Irmo citizens,
Well,
you should not have agreed with and said, I like this.
I have, and that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't found it. And I'm not gonna comment on something I don't know. Anyway, is that all you got to say about that, or?
No, what I'm saying to you is, you're proliferating misinformation amongst the emails on your town provided iPad.
No.
In the sense that
The
you and
Facebook is on my
Donald are
computer.
continuously,
Does it have to do with Mr. Donovan now?
yeah,
No.
this is part of internet
Anyway.
correspondence. And this
If
is.
y'all around alone, I'll get up and leave. You can have the floor.
We're
You
gonna
can talk.
believe it.
I mean, it ain't no sense in here
You're
listening
gonna
to this
believe.
stuff.
You
We
can
wanna
do
go
what
to
you wanna do.
presentation by citizens.
My point is this that you're proliferating misinformation throughout the town, and you're posting stuff like this on the email, which is trash.
That's not on my email.
It's trash on your
That's not on the
Facebook
email.
page.
And
And
you
then,
say so, I don't.
you get Donald threatening that there's some corruption going on in town, and we say, well, what are you talking about?
What has Mr. Donovan got to do with this?
This is part of your internet correspondence,
No,
that's
it's
what,
not.
that's what the subject is we're talking about.
No, we've been talking about something else.
Internet correspondence is not, you don't get emails from Donald?
Anybody can get emails, and
Okay,
there's
I'm
nothing you or
talking about
anybody else
emails
can
that
do
were
about it.
Donald.
Anybody can send an email to
First,
anybody, and that's what the things are for. And that's what citizens ought to do.
Okay, so my
Are
point
you
is this.
suggesting that citizens shouldn't email their council members?
No, I'm suggesting that you're giving them misinformation and basically proliferating, lies.
That's your point of view.
It's my point of view that you're proliferating lies.
It's your point of view. That's what you're
It's
making.
my point of view that you're proliferating lies.
That's what you're
It's
making.
my point of view that this wasn't posted on your Facebook page.
It must be your point of view. You're speaking.
It's my point of view.
I guess so.
Well, I guess, well, golly good. I guess 50,000 people in here didn't see this on your Facebook.
I don't see 50,000 people in here.
You know,
But anyway, that's not a town council matter.
well, it is a town council matter because somebody has indicated to me that they're going to the Attorney General
That you put on here.
to, somebody's going to the Attorney General to discuss the corruption that's going on in Irmo. And then, on top of that, I see this type of stuff.
You all want to continue with this, or
So,
move on?
you know, I mean, you don't have to address it, but I'm saying, you know,
Well, we've already determined I'm not, so is it time to move on? Next item is a presentation by citizens. This is where anyone can come speak to council about anything tonight, whether it's on the agenda or not on the agenda. All we ask that you give your name and address for the record. And again, as we mentioned before, this is a public meeting, and we need to keep it recorded. Anyone want to address Irmo Town Council?
Good evening, George Glassmer, 110 Beck Road. Two issues. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very disappointed in the vote that this council took as to item 8B this evening. You folks are elected officials. You all got elected by the majority of the constituents that voted, yet you seem to be very non-responsive to the majority. I heard no citizen come up here this evening and speak in favor of this amendment. Nobody. Yet 3 of you voted against it. I'm sorry, 3 of you voted for it. There was a suggestion that this is being done to be fair. In fairness, Mr. Brandy knew that that property was zoned neighborhood commercial when he purchased it, and he knew what the restrictions were on it when he purchased it, because he put in the framework for gas pumps there, but didn't put in the entire, he put in the infrastructure, but not the entire gas pump. So it's clear he knew what the restrictions were when he bought the property, he knew what and as neighborhood commercial. And now you're trying to do, in my view, you're trying to get in the back door where it wouldn't come in the front. So it's not a matter of fairness to Mr. Brandy, and it's certainly a matter of unfairness to the residents, at least in Old Friarsgate, if not the entire town. The other issue, as to the item you folks just finished, item 9C, while I understand that there's some citizens that are concerned about what's in there, and whether they should or shouldn't be is a matter for them to decide, my concern is that this item is on the agenda because when I come to town council meetings, I want to see, hear, and learn about items that impact the town and the town's business. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a political issue, and it has no business being discussed here in front of the entire council during a meeting. If an individual in this town has a problem with one of you folks of a political nature, I think he or she needs to take it up with you individually, either after or before the meeting, by phone, email, etc. But don't tie up town council meeting time with political argument. Thank you.
so you're saying the mayor of Irmo can post something like
Is
this
this a
on the
debate
internet?
now, or are you going to allow debate?
We're not going to have a debate. We've already kind of gone through this.
I'm happy to engage in that.
I mean, you know, that's what you're telling me.
Eileen King, 501 Doncaster, Mrs. Hardy King. And I do say and agree with George Glassmeyer. Shame on you, Barry Walker, for trying
Shame on me.
to cause
we're
a
gonna let people
racial
speak.
situation here.
I caused a racial.
Shame on
Your husband is the
you.
one that posted this on the internet. I
enough.
caused a racial.
Hey, I ain't
You
gonna
out your
come
mind,
here.
woman? Are you out of your mind?
You put it on
Hey,
the
I
agenda.
caused a racial issue?
Chief Buck, I think we're going to have to address something up here. We need to get this in line.
Shame on you, Barry Walker.
Don't be shaming on me. I didn't cause an issue. Your wife.
You put the item on the agenda. You stirred up the trouble. You stirred up the trouble.
I stirred the trouble.
And I do.
How did I stir up the trouble? And you're
Anyone speaking? Councilman Walker.
I stirred up the trouble.
Deborah Breedlove again. Mayor, you caused this problem. We wouldn't be here. I'm shaming myself because I don't come to more of the council meetings, but I will make the rest of them. And we got a lot of other people too. But shame on you for causing that. If this wasn't in your email, when I saw it, I couldn't even read it. And then I looked at it again and I said, it's time, and I want to know when the next council meeting is. Barry Walker doesn't have anything to do with me. He doesn't rule my house. And how I feel about an email that I read. Shame on you and anybody else in here who's trying to blame him for something the mayor put on there. Shame on you.
Anyone else? Okay.
This rezoning issue.
Oh,
Pam Roberts, 612 Charing Cross Road. I'm very disappointed in the vote tonight, especially in yours, Mr. Youngner, because the last time you sat on this council and we had these hearings, we had this discussion many times, and you sat there and you promised us that you would defend the neighborhoods and your constituents with the zoning. You promised. I don't know if time off the council changes your promises, but you promised. This is not just for this one place, this one corner of Irmo. This is for the whole town of Irmo, as you see all the orange spots on there. I assume that as elected officials of the town, you have the best interest of the town in your hearts. Your town administrator knows the codes and the zoning and all the things that come along that has to be done every day. But I assume that the people that sit in these chairs have the best interest of the town in their hearts and know that it's a big responsibility and that what the things that they do doesn't just affect today or next week, but they affect our children and what's going to happen in the next 100 years. Because as we all know, things change. And as you all say, this is why you voted for this, to make it fair, to make it equal. Well, it's not making it fair and equal for the citizens that live in the town, possibly for the businessmen and the tax base, possibly for that, but not for the people that vote, for the people that sit in your chairs.
Give them a welfare check, a free cell phone, Section 8 housing, a six-pack of beer.
Someone else
is in the best interest of Irmo, I suspect. Okay.
Again, it's Slim Holtzclaw at 100 Lordship Lane. I am one of those people that try to make every meeting that I can with my workload that I've got on myself. Was one of the reasons I chose not to pursue a council member seat after serving 8 years with the Zoning Board of Appeals. In the last 6 months, I've been real ashamed of the people sitting up at this table in front of me, all of you, every one of you. Y'all have made promises to these people. It looks like a witch hunt from standing outside, looking in. Let's do this because it's going to piss somebody else off. Let's do this because it's going to piss him off. Excuse my language. I understand that there's a member up here that I'm going to call on to find out to the ethics board if you should be voting at all, because you should not be voting if it's a direct impact on your pocket. And I'm looking at you, Paul Younginger. You voted against this in the past. It is about one piece of property. There is only one, as the mayor pointed out, there's only one station in the town of Irmo that touches residential. And that's because it was grandfathered in when it was Richland County. They built the subdivision in behind this gas station. And when we, or the town of Irmo, annexed that piece of property, they let him stay as a general commercial gas pump because he was already there. And it's to my knowledge that if that piece of property ever closes for more than 6 months, he cannot reapply for general commercial because he would lose his grandfathership. Harvey, I'm addressing you now. You made that promise that you would never vote for this because of the value of the person's property. That's one of the reasons why I chose to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals, is to make sure that what I did on that Zoning Board of Appeals was to help the property values of the homeowners in this town. Because if you protect the homeowner's value, thank you, Kathy, for what you said tonight on that. Hardy, I thank you for what you tried to do tonight about stopping that. Okay? But again, I'm real ashamed, and I'm even going to address you, Barry, on this, because I know where you're coming from on it. I'm real ashamed of every one of you sitting up there because of the witch hunts that I've seen in the last 6 months. I don't have time to come watch everybody. And I'm seriously thinking that this may not be the place we want to live. Thank you.
Here, Jordan, crack pipes.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Video camera.
Dwayne Roberts, 612 Charing Cross Road. I wanted to let you know, Mr. Hoops, that we're not misinformed. We know exactly what you're doing. You're allowing general commercial operations on neighborhood commercial property. That's what you're doing. And I also remember you promising us that you were going to support us. That's one of the reasons I voted for you. At this point in time right now, I'm realizing that I must have made a mistake. But anyway, I'm still opposed to this, as we all are, and I hope you guys will reconsider this on the third reading, because we're going to be watching you close. Thank you.
Anyone else to address council? Seeing none, next item on the agenda is executive session, unknown, that I know of, anybody know of? Being so, the next item is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hope not. All in favor of adjournment, do so, show of hands.